Welcome back for another video. We're back with the Experts series to see what the top managers are doing this week, their transfer plans, captaincy, the Experts team, and we've got a few chips active this week as well, which is exciting. Let's get straight into it. Starting off with the manager highlight, NASCAR's held on to the top spot in the Experts League with a rank of 9.2k after getting a score of 68 points. This was a painful one to edit this week because while I was sifting through the Experts data, I noticed that one manager took a -64 hit and forgot to activate the wildcard presumably. A past couple of top 10k finishes, even a top 1k finish to their name. Fortunately it's still pretty early in the season, hopefully they can claw it back from around 4.5 mil. Etnick got the biggest score in the league this week with 86, which has taken him up to 40k. So in terms of their transfer activity, 65% are planning to roll the transfer, 22% making one move, 10% making two, and 2% making three transfers. There is an international break wildcard active this week as well from a top manager who has shared his wildcard with us. We'll take a look at it in a minute. First, let's break down those transfers sorted by the most popular transfer players in and out. It's a tie at the top this week. Solanke and Johnson are the two most transferred in players, 11% are picking them up before the West Ham game at home. And longer term, they've got 3 home games in the next 4 and they're both in form. Looking at who they're selling here, the moves are pretty logical. Luis Diaz is the most sold player, and most of those are buying Johnson. And as far as the forwards, Havertz and Jackson have been sold by 6% each, mainly for Solanke. Rob T FPL makes great graphics using the market odds every game week, and here's the GW8 top projected goals and clean sheet odds, which suggests it is a great entry point for buying a Spurs attacker. Man City are top this week with 2.55 projected goals, and then it's Spurs with 2.4, Liverpool 2.2. Honourable mention as well to Maddison, who's also a very good option for about 0.9 mil more than Johnson. Some more reach to points with him via free kick and corner duties, so you get what you pay for extra. That said, Johnson has gone toe to toe with him as far as FPL points with 36 to Maddison's 39. If you're looking at a Spurs midfielder, have a check whether that 0.9 mil could go towards a worthy upgrade elsewhere or not. You might find that Johnson at 0.9 mil enables a better combination of players, or maybe not. 4% are buying Porro, 4% buying Lewis. Man City at top of the game at 8 clean sheet probabilities, so it's a strong week to look at Lewis or even Vardiol. I wouldn't consider any other Man City defenders. Is Foden the biggest opportunity in the game right now? Only 5.7% owned, a bit pricey at 9.2 mil, but we saw him get his first start of the season before the break. I do think he's an extremely high potential pick, but it's quite a lot to pay for someone you don't know is 100% going to start. Wolves and Southampton is an incredible pair of back-to-back fixtures though. 3% are buying Foden this week. Interestingly, 2% are buying Son as well. It could be a massive opportunity if he's fit to play, especially for the next 4 game weeks. And spoilers, he's made his way into the wildcard team that we'll look at shortly. Alisson picked up a hamstring injury last game week. We won't see him until after the last international break of the year, when we're back for game week 12 on the 23rd November, so 2% have been forced to sell him this week. Moving on to chip strategy. I mentioned earlier that one manager's got his one bench boost active. Who's got their bench boost active and what's the reasoning here? I had a look into it, and FPL Soccer, O'Connell's got the chip active currently. He's finished top 10k twice in the past 3 seasons, including a 2k finish. I love to see when the experts break the mould with the traditional chip usage. You don't see a single gaming bench boost often. It's the epitome of playing your own game when you see this sort of thing. So here's his team. It's Raya, Pickford, Milenkovic, Trent, Gabriel, Lewis and Greaves, Rodgers, Bumo, Saka, Johnson, Smith-Rowe, Calvert-Lewin, Solanke and Haaland. So in other words, he's looking to transfer Pickford in, and that gives him a bench of Pickford, Smith-Rowe, Lewis and Greaves. Here's what you had to say. Bench boost active. I didn't plan to use the chip this week, but looking at the points I could be leaving on the table, I think it's a great opportunity to avoid the benching headache and get away from the pack. I'm looking to bring in Pickford for Fabianski to get a playing 15 and maximise the potential for returns. Pickford's got a great fixture against Ipswich this week, plus he rotates well with Raya over the tough games coming up for Arsenal. I will be keeping an eye out for news until the deadline though, and if we get a press conference or a leak that one of my players is out, I'll probably abort the plan and just roll the free transfer. I think it's really important to be flexible, not to overcommit to your plans. Okay, so there's also one wildcard active, FPL Spaceman. He's finished as number 1 in the world in FPL Review's massive data model, which essentially measures the quality of decision making. 2.3k he came last season, top 1k the season before, and his team is Fleck and Muric, Davis Dunk, Anderson Vardiol, Pedro Porro, Eze, Rodgers, Bumo, Son, Fernandes, Solanke, Calvert-Lewin and Haaland. Great to get insight from a top manager, and here's what he had to say. I hadn't really penciled in any specific gaming to wildcard at the start of the season, as I wanted to remain flexible, and the chip seems to be worth a bit less this year with the new transfer rolling rules. We also have less space to fit in all the best players, with Saka, Palmer and Son being priced as premiums and Haaland's up at 15 million. Switching between them based on fixtures seemed to be a good use of transfers early on, so I tried to thread the needle from Haaland to Salah and back again, with the wildcard there to boost me along if needed. Game Week 8 felt like the first time I didn't have the transfers to deal with fires and get to the premium structure I wanted, so the wildcard is active. Haaland's quite obviously in the team for his next 2 fixtures against Wolves and Southampton, whom I believe concede goals quite often. I'm pretty open, if not keen, to sell him in Game Week 10 to go back to Salah. So I'm keeping an eye on the team structure that allows me to do that. Son is my preferred second premium provided he's fit, given the Spurs' upcoming fixture run, with an aim to move over to Palmer later around Game Week 12. If Son isn't fit, then I'll probably just try to start with Palmer and save that transfer, or maybe take a punt on Foden in the short term. I think Ødegaard would be a poor selection in this spot, given he is injured, so probably won't score any points. Solanke looks great to double up on the Spurs attack, and Mbeumo, Eze and Rodgers are fairly easy picks for me for their price. Not many players offer the same value as these guys, so no need to get fancy here. Eze's name's also a palindrome, so there's that. Calvert-Lewin seems to be playing 90 minutes again, it's a miracle. With Everton's nice upcoming fixtures, it's high time I pick him and sell him after his inevitable injury. I could be persuaded by Chris Wood or someone a bit different, just to feel something. Personal preference picking this spot really. Lots of budget forwards and much of a muchness. In other words, whichever one I pick will let me down and have their face printed out and stuck on my dartboard as all the other guys all go on scoring sprees. The beautiful game. 2 4.5mm keepers for now. Could be anyone really, but my computer told me Brentford and Ipswich rotate quite well. If I can find the funds, I quite like to start with Raya instead, but I usually just leave goalkeepers to last and pick whomever is best with the remaining budget. They're a bit of a lottery of save points and clean sheets. I have Mark and Arrow printed off ready for the dartboard too. Davis lets me double up an Ipswich defence, who wouldn't want that? Dunk is just a sturdy, robust pick, and Anderson looks nice having dropped to 4.3mm now, provided he's fit after missing international duty with a knock. Again, these could be any 4.5mm really, lots of decent options. Printer is running out of ink. Porro's pretty locked for me. He's not on as many set pieces as he was at times last season, but he's still very attacking. And while Spurs are often tilted defensively, their defence is still reasonably solid. Completes a triple up on Spurs with the upcoming fixture run. Spurs wouldn't let me down. I don't know if we'll see Vardy as far forward as last season again, but he's still a reliable route into Man City's defence. He may make way for Trent Alexander-Arnold down the line if the funds are available, but it's worth starting with him now and reassess him, depending on if I free some money up again selling Haaland after the Southampton game. And of course, I've saved the best for last, Bruno Fernandes. Nothing is more powerful than my devotion to Bruno Fernandes as an underrated and underappreciated FPL asset. Except an Apache helicopter. An Apache helicopter's got machine guns and missiles. It's an unbelievably impressive complement of weaponry, an absolute death machine. Thanks for sending in, gents, and good luck with the chips this week. So, moving on to captaincy, and we'll keep it very short and sweet here. This week, 100% of the experts are captaining Haaland. It's not often we get 100% consensus, but it makes a lot of sense this week. Palmer and Salah facing one another. Saka's away at Bournemouth, so on paper, clearly not as strong as Haaland against Wolves. It's pretty decisive as far as FPL reviews projections. Haaland's top this week on 7.4, Salah 6.8, Solanke 6.3. If any of you are captaining someone other than Haaland, let us know who it is. Moving on to the experts team, using the most owned 15 players across all their hundreds of teams, here's how it looks for Game Week 8. It's Raya in goal, it's a back three of Trent, Gabriel and Lewis. In midfield, Mbeumo, Saka, Rodgers and Johnson. Up top, Haaland, Calvert-Lewin and Solanke. On the bench, it's Fabianski, Mykolenko, Semenyo and Greaves. In case you missed it, Mykolenko and Branthwaite both reportedly back in full training, which is good news for Everton, or if you've got an Everton defender, so I've put him first on the bench here. So Raya joins the team. Last week he was 2% less owned than Flecken, but 2% are buying him, 1% selling Flecken, so he just edges it. Luis Diaz with marginally higher ownership than Johnson after this week's transfers, but to keep it within budget, Johnson comes in. It wouldn't be at all surprising for Luis Diaz to start, given he has been favoured in the league, starting all but one game actually. I'd expect him to start. The team looks well set up this week, let's see how it gets on. On to the experts' final thoughts and tips for Game Week 8, here's what they had to say. FPL Sis says, I'm just waiting on Saka news, but on the assumption he's fine, Palmer's going to have to wait. It seems an uneventful international break otherwise, good luck all. FPL Patton says, currently thinking to bring in Spurs attackers with upcoming fixtures, so I'm looking at Johnson and Solanke. I've got 3 free transfers, so I could bring in a defender, but I'm thinking to keep it for a future premium transfer. FPL Cholo says, how dare the international break take away my pain for a week. Forza Inter says, like many managers, I'm treating the next 4 game weeks as a sort of mini-season, with a keen eye on a decent fixture swing kicking off in game week 12. Over the next double fortnight, I'll be using some free transfers I've banked after deploying the post-game week 3 wildcard to shift funds from premium defenders, i.e. Trent and Robertson, into midfield and attack. I'm finding Robinson, Aït-Nouri and Mykolenko useful for this purpose, as they each have decent fixtures more or less spanning game weeks 8 to 14. The guiding strategy is to position myself able to bring in attack-minded midfielders and forwards from the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal, Brighton, Bournemouth and Villa for game week 12 and beyond. Ideally, I'll have saved 3 or 4 free transfers between now and then to make this possible, so I'm going to have to be willing to let a couple of players remain in my squad over the next 2 to 3 game weeks whom I would otherwise prefer to transfer out, e.g. Welbeck, Eze and Madueke. Patience, patience, patience. The football chatter says it's tempting to move things around, but I'm going to try my best to roll the transfer, as I'd like as many as possible for game week 12 when many will play their wildcards. And lastly, Alex says, Haaland as captain against a team that's conceded 21 goals in 7 league games, no need to overthink it. Thanks very much for watching. If you appreciate the hours of work that goes into each video, drop it a like before you go, and make sure you're subscribed. See you soon for the next one.